Malcolm Gladwell is even more my favorite author now than he already was before reading this book. Welcome to 3 Things You Can Use, where Maddie and I analyze the worlds of self-improvement and entrepreneurship through books, 3 things at a time. This week's book is Blink, The Power of Thinking Without Thinking by Malcolm Gladwell. Blink reveals that great decision makers aren't those who process the most information or spend the most time deliberating, but those who have perfected the art of thin slicing, filtering the very few factors that matter from an overwhelming number of variables. That was from Amazon. This book is 296 pages paperback and 7 hours 43 minutes audible. So, what are 3 things we can use from this book? Number 1, thin slicing. Behind a locked door in our mind stands the adaptive unconscious, constantly working, a lattice of wiring that blinks and glows with the firings of neurons to other neurons. Our adaptive unconscious is constantly considering our thoughts and environment for connections that can help us. From all of this arises a strange ability that we've all felt before. The notion that something isn't right, even though we just can't put our finger on it. When the Kuro statue arrived at the Met Museum, they put all of their researchers on it. They really wanted it. They were a new museum, and this statue was a fantastic relic for their early collection. Test after test proved its legitimacy. The material test, the style, everything. But every time they brought an expert in to see it, as soon as it was uncovered and brought into view, the expert would gasp or make a quick face of disgust. They would say that it wasn't right. One expert, in response to them saying that they had just purchased the Kuros, said, "Sorry about that." But, one after one, none of the experts were able to verbalize their issue with the statue. It was just a feeling that they couldn't get rid of. Later down the road, the museum discovered that some of the records for the sculpture had been forged, leading back to accounts that didn't exist. The experts were right, but no one could explain why. Thin slicing is an ability of our adaptive unconscious to recognize things in our environment with very little information and draw a quick conclusion. If that conclusion has any meaning to us, it will give us a feeling, changing our physiology slightly or even drastically, without us being aware of it happening. Number 2, the packaging trick. There are more perceptions that our adaptive unconscious influences. Back in 1940, margarine wasn't popular in the United States. People wouldn't buy it. And Cheskin, a strategic marketing research and consulting company, was asked to find out why. So butter was yellow and margarine was white, so Cheskin started by changing the color of the margarine to yellow. And after some blind taste tests, they found out that it wasn't the taste that was making the difference. It was the unfamiliarity. Cheskin, now recognizing that taste wasn't the problem, started to change the packaging. He changed the shape that the margarine came in to be the shape of butter. So now the margarine was like butter in both shape and color. But it was still different from butter because it was still margarine. The kicker was when they slapped a logo on it, renamed it, and packaged it in foil. The logo was a crown, the new name would be Imperial Margarine, and the foil was supposed to signify quality. Check and mate. Margarine began to sell. The product itself never changed in taste or texture. The experience of the margarine remained the same in all of the elements that you would think mattered. What this study shows us is that the packaging and presentation is just as, if not more important than the product itself. And this wouldn't work with a bad product, obviously. If the margarine had tasted bad, there wouldn't be anything that you could do to packaging to make it any better. And that's an important distinction to make. But making the product familiar and then adding some subconscious accolades is all that it took to make a previously unloved product a household brand. Number 3, the naked face. When you grab a baby's hand while they are looking away, what does that baby turn to look at? Your hand or your face? From the very beginning, we recognize the power of facial expressions. When we look into the eyes of another, We know how they feel. We can tell anger from melancholy by just a few millimeters of eyebrow difference. When you grab a baby's hand, they look at your eyes. That almost worked. They look for an indication of whether you are mad and they are in trouble or if you are happy. Unless they're preoccupied. Then they don't care at all. I'm going to try it again in a minute. Our faces display our feelings. Cameras show that even the most stone-faced of us have micro-expressions that pass across our faces as we interpret the meaning of someone's contemptuous comment or gracious praise. The coolest part of studies like these comes in the form of a different conclusion, though. Your faces come as a result of your feelings, and everyone knows that. But it also works in reverse. A sad face makes you sad. An angry face makes you angry, and a happy face makes you happy. In one of the studies, they hooked people up to sensors and measured heart rate and body temperature. They told one group to imagine a situation that made them sad, and the other group to make a sad face. The results were identical. Same physiological responses. In another one, two groups watch a cartoon. One group had pens between their lips, inhibiting their ability to smile, and the other group had pens between their teeth, forcing them to smile. And by the end of the cartoon, the group with the forced smile overwhelmingly thought the cartoon was funnier than the group with the inhibited smile. So, if you're having a bad day, don't let it be on your face. If you want to improve your mood, just try to forget what's upsetting you and do your best to smile. After a while, you'll feel better. See? She looked right at my eyes. So, to recap. Deep inside our mind is our adaptive unconscious, a frantic octopus at a desk with a stack of papers, highlighting, shuffling, and glancing up at the screen of our environment, trying to figure out what is going on. The packaging and presentation of something is a very important part of our experience. Our faces not only show what we feel, but also can control what we feel. A book with unheard of, amazing insights, all related in incredible and engaging real-life stories. What a good book. Malcolm Gladwell, as I said, is still my favorite author, and even more so now. Thank you for watching. Make sure to subscribe, and we'll see you next week. Bye!